Welcome to the new YouTube channel. If you haven't already done it, hit the subscribe button to follow us all season long for updates and content. So happy that you're here. It's going to be a great year. But a game that's not going to be very fun to talk about. Mitchell.
You really want to go here, Rich, eh?
I have to go here, Mitchell. We can't not go here.
I know you got to be tremendously bummed. I thought they had complete control of this game. I thought they were going to weather the injury storm without Deebo, without CMC, without George Kittle. There were a lot of variables working against them today. I think a lot of fans, myself included, took the Rams very lightly. They did not have either of their top two wideouts in Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. But Richard, when you put the ball in the hands of a gunslinger like Matthew Stafford, this is what he does. He loves chasing teams while behind. He did this all the time in Detroit. And there's nothing better than for him to take a team from behind on the road, or at home, against a division foe. Richard, I know you got to be devastated here. What level of concern do you have for the 49ers in the state they're in right now, starting the season off 1-2?
Well, I got a lot of concern for the defensive side of the ball, the strength. What I would have said and everybody else in the world would have said is the strength of this team, and has been a strength for a number of years, number of all-pro players. We talk about it all the time. Talanoa Hufanga returned to the lineup, was really impactful in this game, had 7 tackles. You talk about the big paid guys like Javon Hargrave, Nicholas John Bosa, the all-pro Fred Warner. Charvarius Ward has been playing like a top cornerback throughout the years. And Diamador Lenore, friend of the program, has had a number of incredible plays and really good seasons that he's put together. And none of that was the case today, Mitchell. Tutu Atwell was able to have his way. Huge catch late in the fourth quarter with Charvarius Ward in coverage. That's a play I'm sure he wants back, a play you can't have. And as a dominating defense, you cannot allow a team that's this banged up offensively. And I held my breath and I said, this is a kind of a trap game. When they're that beat up on the offensive line, it should be a blowout game for the San Francisco 49ers. They should be able to get home. They did not get at home as much as I would think against Matthew Stafford. They got 3 sacks, but that's not enough in a game where their offensive line is this beat up. They don't have a true number one receiver. They're with backups and practice squad receivers. Kyron Williams is a good back, but I mean, Matthew Stafford didn't complete a pass until 8:26 in the second quarter. 8 minutes and 26 seconds into the second quarter is when he completed his first pass. But when he gets going, Mitchell, he gets going. And then you have the punt return. The special teams miscues continue to stack up. And when you're elite, a contender, these aren't the things that you can have happen. You have to have things you can depend on, that you can hang your hat on and say, hey, no matter what, these are the things that we're going to have. And this is going to take away from an incredible game from Brock Purdy, an incredible game from Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings, 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, deserves praise, deserves credit, deserves celebration. Brock Purdy was 22 of 30, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, ran the ball 41 yards. He did lose the 1 fumble when Colton McKivitz got beat really badly early on, and he got. He got forced fumble. He lost that fumble. That's a play. I mean, they have to get cleaned up. Yeah, I mean, you can't have that from Colton McKivitz. You can't have that. You can't get beat that bad. And I know we don't want to talk bad about players, but that's just an unacceptable play for a pro to have. And when you have those unacceptable plays, there's going to be criticism attached with it. Jake Moody missed a field goal that could have easily helped this team win this ball game. The play at the end of the game was cool. There was a lot of talkbacks, guys getting the ball down the field. It was a fun play to watch, but it's not a fun play to watch unless San Francisco 49ers win the ball game, and they did not. Critical drop from Ronnie Bell. I mean, just unexcusable. There were 7 drops in this game from the San Francisco 49ers. Those are unacceptable numbers. And we can talk about Deebo Samuel being out. We can talk about George Kittle being out. We can talk about Christian McCaffrey being out. No. That was not the reason they lost this game. The offense moved the ball. The offense scored effectively. The offense I mean, they had chances. They had a chance to close this game out many times, but drop passes, lack of execution, damned them. Jordan Mason had 19 carries for 77 yards, a solid game, not his best game, not a game that we're accustomed to seeing from him. But you got to think Sean McVay knows this offense because he runs this offense. So both sides were going to have some limitations, but as this defense that we hold in such regard for obvious reasons and because they've earned this, they got to play better. They have to. Your best players have to play your best. And this has been consecutive games because they didn't play great outside of Fred Warner. And Bosa had 2 sacks against the Minnesota Vikings, but you need to play better against the Minnesota Vikings. And they played pretty good football against the Jets, but it's one of those things that there's going to have to be some conversations, and I'm sure there will be conversations in that locker room where they're saying, hey, we're better than this. It's not time to panic or time to point fingers or start infighting, but it is time to wake up. It's time to start taking this more seriously. It's time to understand this is the National Football League. There are no easy games, and to drop a game like this means you're going to have to. You don't have any margin for error. The Seattle Seahawks are at the top of the NFC West right now, 3-0, haven't lost a game. They go to Detroit, a really tough game in Detroit, and then they in a couple of weeks they play the San Francisco 49ers, and that's going to be a game that's pivotal. The San Francisco 49ers need to get things together heading into that game because offensively, I'm not mad at what Brock Purdy did. I thought this was a statement game for Brock Purdy because they say he can't do it without his weapons. He can't. What is he going to do when Kittle's out? What is he going to do when Deebo's out? What is he going to do if Christian McCaffrey? Well, all 3 of them were out. He threw for almost 300, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. He ran the ball 41 yards. He's a good quarterback. He's an elite quarterback. I'd say he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League. And if you give him the same criticism, then please give it to Joe Burrow. Please give it to every quarterback that you think is elite that has not played that way because he's playing that way and you don't want to give him credit. Don't tell me T. Higgins is hurt and that's why Joe Burrow is playing the way he did because that's asinine. That's hypocritical because you're saying, so now he needs T. Higgins to be able to reach his potential. So he's not alone special. He's only special if he has T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and all these weapons and Joe Mixon, or is he special in his own right? He's a heck of a quarterback, but he does need help. And I'm trying to get people to understand you got guys playing some really good football right now that will never get credit because of what you think of them or what the past. Geno Smith played a really good game, has played, with the 2 interceptions, that'll take away from his performance. But Sam Darnold was forgotten about, left for dead, not relevant, and playing elite football. So if you talked about the top quarterbacks in the National Football League right now, it's not necessarily the highest paid guys. It's not. And if you say you talk about this list and you don't mention Brock Purdy, then you're a hater. Then you're just a hater. You're just a guy who doesn't like low round picks, overachieving and playing above what you expect them to do. And you want to continue to go with things that are the way they're projected. Hey, this guy was a 1st-round pick. This guy I think should be good. So I'm going to say he's good. And I'm not expecting this guy to be good. So even if he's playing good, I'm not going to give him that kind of credit. Oh, this is a frustrating loss. I know Kyle Shanahan's frustrated. I know Nick Sorensen's frustrated because at the end of the day, coaches can only do so much. Coaches can scheme it up, call the play, but you got to execute. If they call man-to-man and the corner gets beat, you could say he should have called zone. If they call zone and he gets beat, you could say he should have called man. But at the end of the day, you got really high-level players that can execute and play the game at a high level that you need to play. Players got to play the games. Players win the game. Players execute the scheme. Players make the scheme come to life. Players can turn a bad play into a good play. Players can make a good scheme look like a bad scheme. They have to execute at a better level defensively. They have to get more pressure on these quarterbacks, and maybe that's bringing 5. Maybe that's bringing 6. Maybe they need to go to that because right now it used to be a 4-man pressure. They can get home, and they're not doing that as consistently. They're not making the quarterback uncomfortable, and that's changing fundamentally the structure of the defense. So, the 49ers got the Patriots next week. They have to find a way to win that game. They have to find a way to get back on track. Hopefully that's, they get healthier in the meantime. Talanoa puts another game under his belt. but they have to win that game, Mitchell. That is the early season must win. If they lose that game, then the panic meter goes to a 9 or a 10.
I'm with you, but let me ease the concern a little bit for you here, Richard, because I know you remind me of me last week when the Lions lost, when I asked you to talk me off the ledge here. Let me do the same for you. Richard, the San Francisco 49ers last year went through a substantial losing streak in the midway point of the season, and everyone was freaked out. I remember you were a little bit freaked out. I was a little concerned for them as well. But, Richard, throughout this, early season, a drought, if you will, they've been playing without CMC, obviously, now Kittle and Deebo, but we've seen these underlying players, these lesser-known guys emerge. Jordan Mason, like we already talked about, as soon as CMC comes back, they're going to be able to lean on Jordan Mason late. So for me, I view that as a positive. And then we always loved third and Juwan Jennings, but Richard, 11 catches for 175 and 3 tutties. I mean, when you get him and rookie Purcell going and you get Deebo back, by week 6, week 7, I think the Niners return to where they were last year. And I think, as a Lion fan, I'm personally always going to be afraid of them. I think these injuries are going to allow them to grow some of their lower tier players and elevate their confidence levels. The one area of concern I do have with the Niners is you pay this guy, Brandon Aiyuk, all this money in the offseason, and he's got 3 straight underwhelming games. Richard, this was his moment to shine. Everyone thought Brandon Aiyuk was going to blow up today. Without Deebo, without CMC, without Kittle, who are you going to target? You're going to target Brandon Aiyuk. And he walks away with an underwhelming 5 catches for 48 yards. Juwan Jennings turns into be that go-to guy. Richard, what is going on with Brandon Aiyuk right now?
Again, it's a lack of chemistry, Mitchell. You have to put the time in. You have to put the time in with these quarterbacks again and again and again. I'm going to keep saying it. No matter what you say, like, hey, he was holding in training camp. He was in the building. He was working out, staying in shape, getting treatment in the meetings, but he wasn't building a rapport with the quarterback like he did last season. And when you don't do that in the game, I mean, he built a rapport with Juwan Jennings. They have built-in plays, and you can see it. He has a trust in Juwan Jennings. He has a feel. He has a understanding of where he's going to be on the field and where he likes the football, and he puts it there. And you can see that throughout the ball game. It's just sad because I'm glad that Juwan got to have a game like this so that the world can see what he's capable of, because he gets buried below these superstars, and deservedly so. They deserve, Deebo deserves all the credit he deserves. Brandon just got paid, has played really good football. George Kittle, all these guys, but a guy like that who's a really talented player never gets to shine in the way that he deserves until a game like this. And then he shines, and people are like, where'd this come from? And it's like, well, if you watch the Super Bowl, I mean, he gets open, he catches the ball. He could do that against just about anybody at any level. He's just not going to be a highly targeted guy in this offense, and he never has been. But when he finally got an opportunity to be targeted that way, he shined in a big way, and I'm very happy for him. Happy for his family. I think he made himself a lot of money today. And I just wish the defense and the rest of the team could have stepped up and finished this game off. I don't want to point the finger at anybody specifically. I think everybody's going to be able to look at the tape and hold themselves accountable that they could have played a better ball game. And hopefully step up next week and play a better ball game and get a win against the New England Patriots to get back to 500.